The story begins the same way it has for countless farmers across history. You walk out to a piece of earth hoping for signs of life, only to find something closer to battlefield ruins than a field of growth. Hard-pan soil, no worms, no smell of earth, just dust that slips through your fingers and refuses to hold moisture. It's the kind of ground that makes even the most determined grower wonder whether it's worth planting anything at all. And that is exactly where I was a month ago. This wasn't just poor soil. This was soil so dead it couldn't even sprout weeds. But as any student of history knows, some of the most fertile regions on Earth began as wastelands until someone stubborn enough refused to accept defeat. 30 days later, that same lifeless patch of ground is producing greens, herbs and young vegetables that are well on their way to a strong harvest. And what transformed it wasn't luck. It was a system borrowed from old world farmers who understood soil long before modern agriculture existed. The first step was diagnosing why the soil was dead. Dead soil usually isn't caused by just one problem. History shows us that civilizations lost fields the same way farmers still lose them today: depletion, compaction, and erosion. When I dug into that patch, the shovel barely entered. That alone told the story. Compaction had suffocated oxygen. Without oxygen, microbes and worms vanish. Without them, soil structure collapses. Then the sun bakes it into brick. Water runs off instead of soaking in. What you end up with is something that looks like soil, but acts more like concrete. Anyone can diagnose their own soil the same way. If your shovel can't easily go in, if the soil forms rock-like clods, and if it won't hold moisture for more than an hour, you're working with dead ground. The good news is that soils like this have been revived for thousands of years. You just need to follow the right order. The second step was reintroducing organic life, starting from the top down. When a landscape is too far gone, you don't fix it by tilling or digging down. All that does is mix dead layers deeper. Instead, you feed the top and let nature pull everything downward. I began by covering the entire area with a thick layer of damp cardboard. This isn't a modern trick. Early farmers used woven mats, palm fronds and bark sheets in the same way, to smother weeds, trap moisture and soften the ground beneath. The cardboard absorbed water like a sponge and blocked sunlight, which immediately began loosening the hardened surface. On top of the cardboard, I piled aged leaves, shredded branches, grass clippings, and whatever organic material the land could spare. I focused on depth, not neatness. As long as the layer is thick, about a hand's width or more, you create the right microclimate. The goal is to mimic the forest floor, where even the toughest ground eventually yields to the steady push of decomposition. Anyone can apply this step in their own garden. Start by laying cardboard everywhere you want the soil revived. Then pile organic matter on top and keep it moist. Nothing needs to be precise. Nature handles the engineering work. The third step was using moisture the way ancient farmers used it. Water is not just hydration, it is the engine of decomposition. Dead soil repels it, so I didn't water the soil directly. I watered the mulch and the cardboard above it. This encourages earthworms, fungi, and beneficial bacteria to move upward rather than struggle below. Every 3 days for the first week, I soaked the entire layer as though feeding a living organism. As the moisture settled, the cardboard softened into pulp, and the layer of leaves and clippings began sinking, a sign that decomposition was underway. After about 10 days, I gently tugged back one small corner. For the first time, I saw earthworms. Not many, but enough to tell me the soil had started breathing again. Anyone applying this method should stick with consistent moisture. The goal isn't mud. It's a slow, steady dampness that encourages microbial activity. The fourth step was adding fast-acting natural fertility. Once the soil was soft enough to accept roots, I added fermented plant juice and a small amount of compost tea. This wasn't traditional compost, but a concentrated microbial starter used throughout Asia for centuries. When poured over newly revived soil, it wakes up biological processes at remarkable speed. It is the same principle used by farmers who restore fields after monsoons, droughts, or slash-and-burn cycles. You can make a simple version yourself by soaking chopped green plants, like comfrey grass or weeds, in water for about a week, just until the liquid turns dark. Then you strain it, dilute it, and apply it lightly. This gives the revived soil a bit of a boost, without overwhelming it. The fifth step was planting crops that help repair soil. Certain plants are known throughout history for their ability to rebuild land. I chose radish, beans, mustard, and leafy greens. Radish breaks up soil gently. Beans add nitrogen. Mustard suppresses harmful microbes. Greens create a living canopy that shields the ground. These plants were not chosen for the harvest alone. They were chosen because they continue the repair that the mulch and moisture began. Anyone can use the same approach. Grow the fast crops first to soften and enrich the ground. Then replace them with heavier feeders like tomatoes, peppers, or root crops. Within 30 days, the transformation was undeniable. The soil that once felt like stone now lifted easily. Earthworms multiplied. Moisture stayed in the ground. Plants rooted deeply. What looked impossible became manageable simply by following the natural order that farmers have used for centuries. This is the method FarmLab stands for. Grounded in history, proven in practice, and available to anyone willing to put in the effort. If you found this guide valuable, subscribe to FarmLab and share this with someone battling dead soil. Your support helps keep this knowledge alive and growing.